Hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of the DATAmundi Podcast. I'm Louise Law, your host, and I'm delighted to have you all with us today as we kick off this series dedicated to exploring the world of human data for AI. In each episode, we're going to dive into trends and real-world challenges that are shaping the data space, and we'll feature conversations with leaders and experts across the industry. Today, I'm joined by our co-CEO, Veronique Ozkaya, to get her take on the state of the AI data market, what trends have caught us by surprise this year, and what are some of the opportunities ahead. Veronique, welcome.
Thank you, Louise. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Happy to kick this off.
Brilliant. So for the sake of our listeners that may not have heard of you or heard of DATAmundi, do you think you could tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about DATAmundi?
Sure. So I'm the co-CEO at DATAmundi, and before that, I had a career in the language services, also known as the localization industry, and work for a number of organizations very much focused on my leadership as a growth leader. So I've been known for taking companies from relatively small size to doubling or tripling their sizes, and for working across a variety of sectors. So I have worked for American organizations, very much focused on high tech and life science. I worked for European companies that had more of a public sector, e-commerce, so different sectors, but similar types of services and at different levels of scales. And about a year and a half ago, I was recruited by a company called Sumalingua that also was in that content and localization industry, but had a division that was dedicated to data services. And that was the reason I joined. And very quickly, I wanted to ensure that the company focused very much on that part of the business, because I saw really the enormous potential it had. So it's a segment, it's a sector that's growing very quickly. Why? Because as the compute is growing in AI, the fuel for all of these AI models and systems is data. So we literally took that service and decided to build our strategy around it and to grow it significantly. And that also meant changing our identity and rebranding to DATAmundi. And DATAmundi was actually the name of a company that we acquired in 2021. So the name didn't come, out of the sky, but rather it was focusing on what we had acquired and we're going to develop. So that's the background.
Sounds good. Well, I think there's a lovely alignment there. Obviously, you've got great experience as a growth leader, and you're leading a company in a very, very high growth area. So I think there's a really nice fit there, isn't there?
Absolutely. And if you look at the massive investment that's made in AI, just to give you a data point, over 52% of VC investment went to AI in 2025. It's a sector, data specifically, that's growing about 30% year on year. It's estimated to reach over 100 billion by 4 years' time. And again, because that compute power, all these data centers being built, all of the hyperscalers investing in infrastructure, you know what? This infrastructure, it's built to run on data.
Yeah. So is that's how you'd summarize the landscape at the moment, is it?
Yes, and what's shifting now is so data is a critical factor for AI success, right? Also, the second thing to think about is not any type of data. It's all about high quality, accessible, ethical data sets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're essential for these AI applications. So we kind of see three things that are driving our services, are driving in general the human data companies and providers. You're seeing that AI adoption is maturing, right? That organizations are implementing AI and they realize that they need the human quality data. If you're going to set up a internal bot in your organization
Yes.
to help knowledge management. Instead of having to go on IM and ask a colleague for something, if you could ask a bot and say, how do I, in marketing, get access to this collateral? Then this internal system could give you that information without you having to ask a couple of people. For this to work, the input into the system, into the bot, needs to be clean and correct. So that's what we're seeing, and more companies are adopting AI. But if they don't have the right sector-specific, topic-specific, curated data, it's very complicated. And that's why you see a rise in the demand for experts that are going to train AI. That's one. The second thing, and that's our specialty, that's our differentiator, is the language gap. So AI is in English. 90% of the models are in English. And of course, now the AI foundation models and builders, they're looking for multilingual data.
Of course.
So they can spread that, to across different countries. And then the third and not least is ethics. So governance. And what we're seeing as a trend and as a request or demand, which is very justified, is that clients are asking to, where is the data coming from? Consent, all of these aspects around regulations are definitely growing and important. I think it's a good thing. It's the guardrails, right? In it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think I've read, in a couple of areas that, data is the new oil. There's all this huge investment in AI systems, implementing AI. Without data, it's never going to work, really, is it? So it's something that I think is that you mentioned high quality, the importance of experts, because we don't have good data without humans. We still need that human judgment and that human guidance to be able to make sure that the data is accurate and clean to train the AI models. And the value of language and culture, which is obviously where DATAmundi has its heritage and has its roots. So there's a really nice alignment there of all the different factors coming together. Was there anything? So we've looked at,
and maybe Louise.
Sort of,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna give an example of data, because that question has come to me from a number of people saying, data, what is data? And data, of course, it's text, it's audio, it's video. A very simple example that, it's not related to LLMs. Take autonomous driving. You're in a car, self-driven car, right? That car has been trained, right? The system has been trained to recognize things. So, and take unusual events. There's fog and somebody is crossing the street. This is like something that doesn't happen a lot, right? But you still need to capture that for the car to understand.
Of course.
And there's a danger, it needs to stop. Or if it's snowing, and I know in your part of the UK, it snows, right? In the winter a bit. And the signs, the road signs, if the road signs are covered in snow, how will the car understand this is happening? You need to capture this. So this is data, and this is fed into the system for the car to actually recognize what's happening. So I just want to kind of explain that data is not just text. It's also not multilingual data sets. It's also, multimodal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, was there anything that surprised you this year? It's an area that's constantly changing, constantly evolving. We're hearing, there's new research coming out all the time. What surprised you about this year, Veronique, in terms of the industry, and also maybe some of the challenges that we're seeing our clients facing?
The main thing that surprised me was the significant increase in requests for data sourcing. So we offer three sets of services, or three buckets of services. You've got the sourcing, which is data collection, essentially, and also off-the-shelf data. Then we have the services that are really related around data augmentation, We annotate, we label, we enhance these, we make the answers or in the data sets better. Give you an example of that. Let's say you have an empty output, and all the professions, can have a gender in some languages. So a nurse is un infirmier or une infirmière in French. If your empty only says like the nurses are women, you have a bias. So this, what we do is we fix that, right? And then you've got the evaluation. The evaluation is about trust and safety and benchmarking. So these are the three buckets. Bucket number one, the data sourcing, I was quite surprised to see a real resurgence. And I was thinking what's happening, and essentially we see three things. Number one, the models initially were built by using publicly available data, quality data, but scraping the web and using all of this, big volumes of data. So we've gone from volume to quality very much. And the sourcing is that there's a big push for a human generated data set. And there's scarcity there. So that's tough because you've got very, very specific domain data that is that companies are looking for, and everybody's looking for that. So if you're going to build a model about drones, for example, and you need experts in drones in Slovakia, there is not tons of these people who can actually contribute to improving the model. The second thing, go on.
I was just going to say, you talk about sort of domain-specific activities, like any area, like law, medical, healthcare, some of the STEM areas. There's no wiggle room for error, really, is there? So that's the importance there of when you're building and collecting that data or sourcing that data, as we're talking about at the moment. It's very important to be able to have that trust and reliability on the data.
And some of it is really hard to get by. So the second reason why we're seeing so much data sourcing is because the AI adoption is growing. So you've got sectors even that would have been quite conservative that have a mandate to adopt AI. Let's take example. Let's say take manufacturing. If you need to capture how a factory floor is functioning, a lot of the information is in PDFs. It's in people's mind. How do you capture that? And of course, confidential data. So that's also a challenge. The scarcity is related to domain, but also the type of data that you're trying to get. And then the third thing, of course, regulation, right? We're back to that. Like I mentioned the confidential aspect here, but also where does the data come from? Did the person consent to give it? So if the data is not clean, that's it. You cannot defend your model. I think that's a very important, so compliance is like a risk, but it's also an opportunity because it's also this kind of stamp of ethics or ethical aspect that you put on the model.
Absolutely. And I think the three different areas you've mentioned before, I think that's where it's quite important for both for us as a human data provider to know what the use case is for the actual AI system that the data is being used, because if we know that, we know we can apply the right procedure, the right solution, the right technology to make sure it makes the marks. Would you like to talk a little bit about some of the use cases that you've seen this year and how that's affected how we go about developing the actual data solution?
That's a super good point, Louise. And I really see that the use cases are getting more varied, more complex, and they require more, let's say, ingenuity in how to either source the data or work on the data and also being able to scale, right? Because you need to look at how you can make some repetitive tasks more automated, so you can scale. And also, as we work across languages, that's quite important. And sometimes it's not very obvious, right? When you get a request from a client and you work with the data scientist of what is this going to be used for? So very key to understand what is the goal with the data. What are the KPIs? So if a company says we need to improve the quality of a data set by 0.2%, okay, Why is that? What are you trying to achieve? So we're always trying to figure that out. And to give you example of use case. So we tend to specialize in LLMs, but and also all the aspects around trust and safety.
Okay.
So that's the whole is the model grounded, working on data sets, golden answers, all of these things, is this compliant, etc. But let's give an example of LLM. Let's say that you are working on a legal LM for a big law firm. Well, the firm is going to use us to review and validate the data sets before it's deployed. And that means that we need to identify the right profile of lawyers that are going to be reviewing these data sets before they use. And because you cannot have mistakes there. And a generic annotator will not be able to do that. Let me give you an example of something that failed last year when I was in an AI conference in New York. A big consulting company explained how they deployed an internal assistant, a text, assistant internally that was supposed to help all of the their staff, and mostly it's advisors and consultants and so on and so forth, getting answers and being able to pick into the company global database of answers to standard question. The usage, the adoption was 95% on the first day of launch. So everybody was already eager to use this assistant. Within a week, it dropped to 5%. And the lady who from that consulting company that was explaining what happened, she said, you know what, we had a fantastic technology and we really didn't consider cleaning the data much better than we did. And
lost trust.
You lose the trust. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Another example of use case is, let's say, conversational agents, right? Well, they need human-generated dialogues that are going to reflect a certain expertise. So if you are going to use an agent with your insurance company, you want to make sure that what the agent is telling you is based on actual, real, human-generated conversations that are happening. So sourcing that, not an easy case. Or another maybe example related that we did a few months ago was working on a voice assistant in Arabic, but it had to be Gulf Arabic. So what you need to do is, and you need to get that human-generated speech, but with the actual variant of Gulf Arabic, so that the system will understand exactly accent and dialect. Otherwise, the AI will not understand what is being said.
Wow, that's some really interesting use cases. I'm sure there's a lot more to come as well, isn't there? Do you think, I'll throw a quick, before we start wrapping up, do you think we'll ever reach a ceiling where all the AI models are absolutely trained and they're brilliant, and there'll be no need to put more data in the tank, so to speak? Do you think we'll ever hit a ceiling?
I think it's not going to stop for a long time.
Yeah.
Simply AI adoption. Right now, of course, the big consumers of data are in high tech and technology companies, etc. But if you think at AI adoption, we're only at the very beginning, and I'm sure you see in the media a lot of data points, excuse the pun, that explain that a lot of companies are only at the beginning of the journey. Right? If you also see the amount of investment that is being put into computing power, it just shows you that this is really something that is completely changing how we work, how we will work. So I believe that data needs are going to not only increase, but they're going to for sure evolve. I don't think the end is in sight. You're going to get to points where maybe for a specific kind of use case in a domain, etc., the system will self-learn and it'll get to a certain level of autonomy, if I can say. And then you're going to have another 10 things that are going to open up. I mean, right now, there are robots. Robotics is actually a big field right now. Robots are being trained to do all sorts of tasks, including folding napkins like a butler. And what does that mean? That you have professional butlers who are showing how a napkin should be folded. That's something that I never thought of, for example.
So learning it from humans.
Yes, I think so. Also, there's also an exaggeration to some of the ways it's going, but it also shows what the technology is capable of doing. So it's fascinating to see what needs to get in order to have good output.
Yeah, wow. So final question, Veronique, as we're kind of heading into a new year, we're looking at the road ahead. What are you feeling really passionate about? What's really, really getting you energized for the road ahead?
What's really exciting is that while continuing to provide the same services that we've been, supplying in terms of data sourcing, augmentation, evaluation, that the use cases are all going to be different. And I think that's very exciting because you see really the effect of what you're producing. You also see that we're contributing to making AI truly global, not just in English, and giving access to these amazing tools and this technology to billions of people around the world. So very exciting. And you really work with some of the best companies in the world on the most advanced.
We're very privileged to be right at the coalface of where all the innovation is happening.
And coming with our background, coming from language services, I see this also as an opportunity for what we call the contributors. So these are our partners in the supply chain to reinvent themselves and to leverage all of this knowledge that they have about context and cultures and how things are done in order to train the models. So that's also very exciting to see that there is a bright future. It's a matter of changing a little bit the way you look at things and embracing the technology and participating.
Of course, that sounds great. Veronique, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights, not just on where the AI data landscape is, but where it's going, what you feel very passionate about. I really appreciate your time. And, we're excited to continue to explore different topics in the world of human data with other episodes. And I'm sure we'll have you back on the podcast, in the next couple of months as well. So everybody, stay tuned. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Louise.
Thanks, Veronique.